What if the way you have learned about sex is actually sabotaging your performance and confidence in the bedroom? Today's guest on the show is going to reveal why most men's sexual education has actually set you up for failure and what you can do about it. Welcome back to The Naked Connection. This is the show that supports driven men to reach sexual mastery and build deep connections. What's up, you guys? It's Kirsten. And before we dive any further into this episode, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. Today, I'm joined by Jackson Hightower. He is the CEO and founder of Natural Jackson, and he has built a community of over 1 million people who are openly talking about sexual health topics and things that most people are too embarrassed or shut down around to discuss when it comes to sexual health. We are going to dive into things today like porn-induced erectile dysfunction, why your sexual education has probably failed you, and then we're going to get into some of the secrets of female arousal and learn practical techniques that go beyond what you probably have seen or learned in your sex education. I cannot wait, you guys. Let's get some. Let's be honest. You want to be that man. The man that she can't stop replaying in her mind. The man who makes her breath catch, who leaves her dripping with anticipation, who has her begging for more before you're even touching her. Here's the thing. Great lovers, they aren't born. They are built through skill, through presence, and through deep confidence that radiates in and out of the bedroom. That is exactly what my legendary lover training gives you. This isn't a list of bedroom hacks. It is a rewiring of who you are as a man, how you carry yourself, how you own your sexual desires, and how you step into sex with complete freedom and clarity. In the legendary lover training, you will learn practices that expand your confidence, sharpen your focus, and ground you so deeply that she feels it in every touch, in every look, and in every breath. Because when you master yourself, she feels it. And that is what makes you unforgettable in bed. I have led countless men through this training and through these practices, and they have walked out completely changed, more confident, more commanding, and more sexually magnetic. And right now, because I'm launching this for the first time, you are going to get in at a discount that I will never run again. So head on over to thenakedconnection.com/lover, LOVER, before this discount disappears. Don't just be good in bed, be legendary. Jackson Hightower, welcome to The Naked Connection. We're happy to have you here today.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, would love to kick it off with understanding, so you support millions of people in the space of sexual health. And I'm wondering, what do you think is wrong with sexual health today that means that we need to improve it?
That's a really good question. We were never taught anything about it. We were never taught anything related to sexual health and wellness. We were born and raised in a society which is still very much, we suppress sexual conversations, right? Like through whether it's religion or through education or institutions. We don't have a lot of deep, meaningful conversations about this stuff. People get squeamish. And I think it's slowly starting to change things. But most guys learn about sex and sexual wellness from all the wrong places, mainly porn. But we're learning from the wrong places, and we don't have really good teachers and really good role models. And that's the first thing I would say, is that we're trying to do things really well. And we spend a lot of our time thinking about these things as a society and as a culture, and in our advertising, everything is sex sells. But then when you get really into it, what kind of knowledge have you ever trained? Have you ever learned? Have you ever read a book about it? Have you ever watched a YouTube or a podcast? Most people would probably say no. They watch porn and they think that teaches them, but it doesn't in the ways that they probably should be learning. So I'd say there's a massive lack of information and education in a holistic kind of wholesome way to teach people about sex. And it's further hindered by the fact that parents are still oh, we were talking about sex. It's like they're going to learn somewhere, right? But they're not going to learn at school. So they're going to learn on the internet or on OnlyFans or on wherever these platforms are now.
Yeah. Yeah. They're kind of everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But all the wrong types of arousal, digital arousal, right? Like it's taking over these young guys and not just young guys, it's taking over everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah. And kind of knowing, it's so funny because when I think back even about when I like the sex education that I received, the school that I went to for some reason, if you were in PE, you either chose PE or band. And if you were in band, you didn't get sex ed. I was in band, it's really cool. And I never got sex ed. So I just, even the public information of it wasn't even something that myself or many other people in band, I guess, received. But yeah, it's just so fascinating that we all come from sex, ultimately, like pretty much anything that's living, right? But we don't feel comfortable talking about it, or we talk about it in these places that aren't as informative as we really would want them to be. And I actually had a conversation once with a man who was a porn star and talking about what is the difference between what you're seeing in porn versus what is actually happening in a quote unquote normal sexual encounter. And I'm wondering for you, just knowing like what you've seen when working with men, how is the education that they're getting from these digital spaces different from what they really should be getting information about?
Yeah. The education they get is vastly different. There's the guys that are in porn stars are picked because of certain features, right? So they're all very hung, very large, endowed. The vast majority, I think there's like 2 billion men on the planet that are between the ages 18 and 65 years old that are less than 5 inches when erect. It's that's a large percentage of the population, which is nowhere near measuring up to that, right? So it creates tremendous performance anxiety. Am I enough? Am I enough? That guy has 8 inches and he has 10 inches and he's got this and he's got that. Men have so much feeling and so much value that is tied to the size of their genitals. It's unfortunate, but it's just a thing. And when you start learning that like that's the norm, it's not. It's like everyone can play basketball. Not everyone can play basketball like LeBron James, right? But it's like you're watching these guys that are picked because of a certain thing, and then they're doing who knows what they're on and not on during the experience. But it's a movie. It's a movie, right? Yes, there's real humans, but so there's a big gap, and porn has been linked to ED. It's called porn-induced erectile dysfunction because a lot of guys that are now 25 and under are getting ED. They're unable to actually engage in sexual experiences, and that's really sad. No one's really talking about this, but because porn is so prevalent, and the average age that people begin watching is 11. 11 years old. All the training, all of the entrainment, all the habituation that you see, oh, that's normal, that's normal. 98% of men are going to grow up and not be that guy. And so it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. And you're learning the wrong moves. Yes, technically those are moves, but they're performative moves that are meant to generate some sort of response in you, which is the point of porn. It's supposed to increase your dopamine to the highest levels possible in the quickest amount of time. And they do a very good job at it. They know exactly what they need to do. The cum shot, like that's actually like in porn, increases the most amount of dopamine is when there's a penis on camera and there's a cum shot on a woman's face. That's actually like the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So like they know what they're doing. And we're in a culture and a society where like the norm is just, oh, we'll just watch that. But it leads to so many issues. And I would say, I don't know, thousands of DMs from guys all around the world, all different cultures, all different religions, etc. And these young men are having problems being intimate because their dopamine is completely hijacked by porn, to a lesser extent, OnlyFans, if they do that, or other platforms like that, and then social media at large. So we're in a tough spot.
Yeah. I'm wondering, so when you get those DMs, what are some of the things that they're DMing you about? What are some of the performance issues or just the issues that they're experiencing?
How many times they masturbate per day? They can't stop masturbating to porn 4 or 5 times a day, 6 times a day. A lot. It's a lot of time, right? They go too quickly. They release too quickly, right? Premature ejaculation. If you habituate your body to like going quickly when you're masturbating and watching porn, guess what? You're going to do the same. You play like you practice. You're going to do the same thing when you're with a partner, right? So if you're not learning how to like elongate your sessions with yourself, how are you going to ever do that with someone else? And then the other one is I can't get an erection when I'm with a partner because I'm watching so much porn. I'm masturbating so often to it. My dopamine side, they don't know this, but like that's the other thing. So it's those three sexual dysfunction pieces that really come up all the time, all the time.
So not being able to get an erection coming earlier, and then maybe being able to have an erection when masturbating, but not with.
Yeah. Sometimes can't finish when they're with a partner because they're so habituated to a very specific look from the woman that they watch in porn or guys, whatever they're into. But it's like, oh, I'm always watching X, some genre demographic, and their body habituates to like that experience, and then they can release. When you're with their partner who maybe isn't that same thing, it's like, oh, it's blondes with large breasts. Maybe their partner is a short skinned Asian woman, right? Like their body says that's not what we've been trained to do. It's fascinating. It's fascinating what happens. I mean, it's sad, but it's fascinating at the same time.
Yeah. So if someone is having one of these experiences that are primarily a result of just exposure to digital sexual stimulus in whatever form that might be, the practical question is, what do you even do to start shifting that? Because it seems like, why would I even change that if I can just hit this button on this screen and I get this release, this dopamine hit, I get my orgasm? Why would I go through all the effort to change that?
Yeah. That's the big question. And it's about values, it's about morals, it's about what kind of life that you want to have. They're bigger questions that I pose to men. Like, well, is this what you want your life to look like? Do you want to have a relationship with yourself and your hand and a screen? Do you ever want to be in a situation where you can connect with a woman and skillfully learn how to please her and have a beautiful experience sexually with someone? So you ask those big questions, and then you get into like the practical tactics. So they have to feel that it's important enough to want to change. Something in their life has to be so painful. Wow, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. Wow, I'm only going to ever get pleasure from these people on the internet who have no connection to me, or I'm paying for it in some way, and there's no risk, right? There's no risk. There's no grit. There's no mettle with that. There's no bravery. There's no courage with these digital platforms like the OnlyFans. So they have to come on their own. They have to come to that conclusion either through thinking about what we're asking them to think about, right? But they have to have the wherewithal to like, oh, this is actually really important. I need to put this on the first pedestal of what I want to focus on in my life. And then if they get to that point, then they can move into, then what do you do? How do you actually affect change? And that's the second part of the conversation. But it's like, I can't want it for them. They have to want it for themselves. They have to feel it badly enough that they say, okay, cool. Like, what do I do now? That's the next question that they ask.
Yeah. And that is a hard place to break out of. It's kind of like the pain of staying has to be greater than the pain of change. And fighting that reality that there is this physiological thing happening too, that your body has become dependent upon, and fighting against that for the desire to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know we're kind of talking a little bit about like, perhaps it sounds like younger men, maybe that aren't in a relationship, but I also just speaking to some of the men who might be, we have a lot of listeners who are in a marriage or a long-term relationship, and maybe sex isn't happening as often as they want, or they're finding themselves in a sex relationship. So they're turning to these sources to have that connection, that stimulation that they're not getting in their relationship. So what do you think about someone who might be in that space?
It's tough. And I would say the easy path is to resort to the digital arousal and to watch porn. But that's not actually getting to the core of what the problem is, right? If you're in a sexist relationship with your partner, there's something that is happening or not happening between the two of you that needs to be addressed. through communication, through work, through effort, through whatever it may be. I'm not saying it's easy, right? It's a harder path. But what do you want your life to be like? You want to just be living in the same house as someone or separated beds or whatever it may be and not actually engage with them intimately anymore? That's, for some people, they're like, cool, that's okay with me. I'll just watch porn. I don't know. I don't think that would work for me. So I would say, like, buck up, like try to resolve it, right? Like, say no to the other stuff and then start engaging and creating that polarity and that dopamine with your partner again to see if you can revive that spark. Because a dead bedroom is all about lack of polarity and a lack of dopamine with your partner. Because if you're getting your dopamine from somewhere else, for whatever the reason was that that person has a sexless marriage, maybe they got complacent, maybe they're not putting effort in, maybe everything became too commonplace in their partnership where there's no aliveness. You kind of have to dig in. We have to dig in more and more and more and work harder at it to keep that sexual energy at its peak, and or learn skills or do things that are going to create that dopamine with your partner, right? Where maybe it's been dead in other areas. So it takes more work. It's a harder path, but I think it's something worth exploring.
It seems like in either of these situations, there's an element of like wanting to put in the effort. And I'm curious of what you think even put someone in that place where maybe they lost it to begin with.
Yeah. It's easy. It's so easy. You get so used to your partner. You stop dating your partner. You think about, oh, I could go down on her, but maybe I'm just kind of tired right now. And like, but when you're first dating, you'd be on it in a second. So there is the element of what continues the energy to create that sexual chemistry. And it's polarity dynamics, it's dopamine and novelty creation, and it's making sure that you're not leaking your energy elsewhere. Because this moment you start leaking your energy elsewhere, sexually, emotionally, whatever it is, that's going to draw your attention to that place and not water the garden that you're supposed to be watering. But I think it's very easy. The Esther Perel talking about mating captivity, all the sort of literature that's out there about what is a typical marriage and why is sex not really part of it as much as it should be, right? Or why is it something that's so negatively affected or negatively talked about? Part of it's kids and stress. It's like you have to create more, you have to work harder to create more time so that you can be with your partner as you get further and further into a relationship, especially with children. So it's like, if you don't want to do that, and if you want to quit at that part of it, then you're just going to have a relationship that maybe have sex once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. But it's more effort. It doesn't mean that it's worse. It just means that it's going to take more time and more planning.
Yeah. And I know us ladies, we like love for things to be like new and exciting all of the time. So I definitely feel for men in the space of them being faced with that. And I'm wondering if we were to think at the beginning of this conversation about like the sexual education component of it, and maybe like people didn't get that. So they're now in this situation where they're faced with like, I have to bring newness or find this novelty, keep things alive. And yet like kind of my bank of intel isn't really that informative. So what, like, because I know you have so much insight, what would you like, where is even a good place for us to start talking about like some of the things that somebody could start exploring or doing with someone?
Yeah. Part of it is, so I always back it up. It's like, what is the man's knowledge base? Where does he start? What does he know? And as men, we often think that we know more than we do about things. And that's just kind of like commonplace. We have an ego about it, like, oh, really good. What if you had the perspective that like, maybe you don't know enough, maybe you don't know a lot, and maybe there's more to learn, right? And if you want to excel in an area, think about every other aspect of your life. And what do, right? You study, you practice, you have a teacher, you have a coach, you have a trainer, you have a sensei, whatever it is, right? Like anything you're doing, you spend time doing it. We tend to just think that like sexual knowledge, just like we assimilate it. And like out of the ether, oh, we're just going to pick that up, or we're watching porn. Like, couldn't be further from the truth. You have to practice and practice and practice, just like you do anything else. And where do you start? I mean, you start with understanding like how your partner works. And a lot of what I do is really educating. First of all, like, do you understand your own body? But after that, like, do you understand your partner? Right? Do you understand how her body works? Do you understand the timing differences? Do you understand her hormones? Do you understand her cycles? Do you understand her cycles every month? Do you understand her cycles every 5-7 years? Right? Like, where is she at right now? And we almost have to because men are good problem solvers, but if we don't know that there's we're dealing with a different person, right? Like that works and has a different physiology and functionality than we do, then we don't necessarily know how to approach it. So that's kind of where we start, is like, how well do you understand your partner, her physiology, her desires, her needs in that sexual realm? And then, you get into learning about physiology, learning about biology, learning about hormones, getting on her app, her flow app, so that you understand where she's at, right? It's about okay, well, she's on this cycle, then I need to do this, this, and this. And then you can plan better dates. You can plan more. You can know if you need more foreplay or less foreplay in that time period, right? It's all about working backwards and figuring out where she may be. And then also understanding that sometimes you're going to be rolled off because women's experience, their emotional experience in a moment, it's not, you're not able to pinpoint it always.
I think even as a woman, we're constantly trying to figure ourselves out too, is probably part of the equation. But yeah, I love that you mentioned being on the flow, your partner's flow app, and knowing where she is in her cycle, and also where in her life as a person that can or cannot, at whatever point it may be, have children, and what does that even mean for your sex life in and of itself.
Yeah. And if you have kids, and do you have time that you can parcel out where they're not around? You have to remember, planning dates and planning sex and planning time with your kids, it's crucial, right? In when you're in partnership, it's crucial. It sounds mundane, but you have to do it. Otherwise, it's not something that comes that easily. Then it's just weeks go on in partnerships where there's nothing, which is challenging, because the guy's I'm still horny, and maybe the woman is too, but you're not finding those moments. You're missing, you know what I mean? So you have to create it, and it takes a little bit more effort, which again is unsexy. Creating and planning around it, in general, the logistical aspect of it, it's not something that's incredibly sexy. But can you work through that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, if someone's listening and he's holy shit, that's a lot of things for me to consider, figure out about a woman. What's the first step? Do you think it's having conversations? What is it? Where can someone take all of this and be okay, here's the thing that I'm going to do today?
I have a lot of resources in my app, but the Bedroom Mastery app, which launches in the App Store very soon, where we get into a lot of this basic sex ed, right? Which is understanding women's physiology, understanding our hormones, understanding foreplay dynamics, understanding what parts of the month mean different things for women, and what that means for your behavior with her. So that's one place I would start. There's also, you have to have a desire to want to learn about it. And then once you put that out there, 20 years ago, there weren't as many resources. Now there's a lot more resources, which is great. Obviously, there's ChatGPT, and you can ask anything out there right now. How do I navigate this? Not always correct, but it gives you a bit of a baseline. But I would say, to understand it, a man has to ask himself what situation he is in, and what is his desired goal, and how is he going to approach understanding that women are very different, right? Men are very linear, direct, and it's this is what we want. And knowing that women are generally very indirect, right? They want different, they don't want it over the head. They want something that's kind of around, and it brings them into a scenario and they feel held. But if there's a very specific thing I would say, is that begin to really understand the differences between men and women sexually, and start to pay attention more to that. So all the actions have a flavor of sex and sexuality, and all the experiences that you have with your partner, and take notice. Because, by the way, every woman is very different. Right? And so if you're in a partnership, your partner is going to be very different than if I'm in a partnership with someone. And so paying attention, right? And not just writing it off oh, she's this. Pay attention. Take notes. Write things down, in a notebook. Understanding dates, understanding times. And that's what I do whenever I've had partners. I'm very into it. As I want to optimize the experience, right? And so I take that approach. It's like, okay, cool. Got it. Noted. This happened. Okay.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
it's a level of wanting, right? I put it on on a high pedestal because I want to be a partner that is capable of showing up in a way that's the smoothest. If you know what I mean, in that particular scenario.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like the idea of like writing things down. I had a partner once who I'm pretty sure he did that. He had like a note in his phone.
Yeah.
I like to think of it like looking at things, not like an experiment, but if you're in a science experiment together and you're like learning about the other person, and that can be really fun. You're like, I'm going to try this experiment. Like, how is this going to land? And just see what happens. And if
And you
it
try it.
flops, like, cool information.
Yes. Yes. And that you just said that really interesting was that the human experience is a big experiment.
Mhm.
We're experimenting all the time. Try something, but try something.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't matter what it is necessarily, but like try something and take note of it and then bring it back. And then, okay, cool. I'm going to try something different. It's almost like it's not like a crude analogy, but like, it's almost like you're trying to hack the experience. We're into like biohacking and psych hacking and sex hacking. Like, how do we figure out where our partner's at so that we can provide an experience that it's going to be the most optimal? And you try a bunch of different things.
Mhm.
And you see what works and you throw away what doesn't. And then, by the way, what didn't work like 1 month, it worked the next month. And then you're totally screwed up. But it's about trying, you know,
Yeah.
and not getting complacent and putting in the effort.
Mhm. And you mentioned polarity a couple of times. And I'm wondering, like, maybe someone's listening and whether they're dating someone or they're in a relationship and they're wondering, okay, how do I use that? How do I implement that into like this dynamic that I have in my life?
Yeah. And I'll speak sort of in general terms. Polarity is in a dynamic, there's a masculine pole and a feminine pole, gender not included, but like generally if men are in their masculine and women are in their feminine, the man, it takes a role of like leadership, containing structure and boundaries and containers and directedness around their relationship. And so it's making a decision about the way things are going, including the partner in that decision, but giving them options. Instead of just being like, what do you think? I don't know. Unless you really have no clue. But like in a mundane sort of everyday life, like men, if they're in their masculine, they're planning, they're making decisions on trips, they're making decisions on food, they're making decisions on guidance around like school education, while including the female partner's opinion and perspective in that, and then creating the container where that conversation takes place, instead of just having it be amorphous. If a guy's listening and he's saying, how do I do that? It's just about taking more initiative and more of a lead. It's really as simple as that. And we've come in our culture, it's a very, very, I would say, like sensitive and tenuous topic, because now women are in much more leadership roles and business, which typically is a masculine energetic frequency. It's linear, it's direct, it's creative in that sense. And there's more of a balance, right? So it's not just 80% masculine, 20% feminine. Maybe it's 60-40. Maybe it fluctuates. Maybe you're with a partner where you kind of both play those roles, right? And you're supporting each other. So it's not just a very specific way of being. But there's always polarity, and there's always adds up to 100%. And there's always one partner that is at a different number than the other partner at any given time. That's generally the way that it works. And so it's about taking leadership roles. It's about opening up conversations and creating space for those conversations so that those emotions can flow through that conversation. And it's not being like, we're doing this and you're not having a say in it. It's being inclusive in those conversations, but creating a space for that, giving optionality. Instead of having 1,000 options, it's like, what do you think about this and this? And then creating that environment. I hear so 70% of my followers are women. And I hear that like men are not leading, they're not directing, they're not asking out on dates, they're not going up and asking people out in person anymore. They're very passive. I just hear all this stuff. Yeah. And so the opposite of that is take a leadership role. Say, we're going to go to this place. I'm going to pick you up here and this is what we're going to do. And if it's in your partnership, continue to create the leadership and that structure around those conversations. And that's what men who are in their masculine, that's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that perspective. I think that, if things get kind of muddy and it is a sensitive topic, but it's especially when it comes down to like two people in a relationship. It's like so individual, and also recognizing that, if you want to step into like that type of a dynamic, like that's how to do it.
Yeah.
Really simple way.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're kind of talking about like things of the mind, so to say. And I'm wondering if we were to get like really practical about like some of the very specific sexual stuff. I think a lot of the times guys are like, okay, I just want the clear cut and dry. What should I do? What do I need to know? And I'm wondering like, what do you think a guy should know about a woman's clit? Like, what should they know about their own dick?
Yeah. Which one do you want to answer first?
Neither.
Neither or either?
Either.
Oh, we'll start with the one that they're more questioning about. A man needs to slow the fuck down in bed. I think that's the first thing. They need to spend more time revving the engines than driving the car almost. Understanding women's bodies work very differently than men's bodies. And so their timing is not her timing. And so when it comes to the clit, not something that you go to right away. You want to focus on all the other areas first. And then you get to that place and then go like 5 times softer and 5 times slower and 5 times smoother than you think that you are. And then do that one more time. Until you get to the end of the scenario where she's fully ready and lubed up and ready to go, and then you can go faster. But I get tremendous amounts of feedback that it's not a remote control and or whatever. Like, it's the most sensitive part of anyone's body. It has like 10,000 nerve endings in that tiny little area. And there's 3 different kinds of them. Some of them have hoods, and some of them have partial hoods, and some of them are more exposed. And based on the level of their arousal or their anatomy, the clitoris doesn't just start there. It actually goes through in her body, down into her body, but looks like a wishbone. And that it's a place for an incredible amounts of pleasure. And also that it's just one of many places to connect in that region, right? That they should also be learning how to explore. It's the one that has the most capacity for sensation that kind of like is the most similar to like what the penis sensation, I think, is, because they're very similar structures. They grow from the same structures and skin and tissues. But learn how to use your tongue. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that we can get into.
Yeah. I think in a lot of like the things that I teach as well in working with clients, it's just slowing everything down. And it's so crazy because I think I usually say like, what you're saying, like 5, I'm like, whatever you're doing, like multiply that by 3 and go that, like go as slow as you think and then go even slower. Or like go even lighter. And and I think too, the piece of, I come from studying a lot of Tantra and like this element of really turning a woman on from like her heart space, and how that can be in and of itself, it might seem backwards, but it's like a faster route to arouse the rest of her body, and how like starting in other places is so important. And I think that I obviously don't know what it's like to be a guy, but I imagine that like having that excitement and arousal, you just want to like go for it, and being able to pull that back can be really challenging, especially when you're like with someone that you're like really aroused by or have all these feelings about. It's like, how do you, like from your perspective, I'm wondering, I know I teach a lot of like breath practices and like focus on energy, but like what's your kind of take on how to like manage and still experience that feeling, because it's probably awesome for you, and also be able to meet your partner where she's at in that process?
The energy that's created there is palpable, and it's potent, and it's also usable, right? So the energy that's created from a male arousal and that fire that happens immediately when you're connecting with someone. It's the same principles. You have to learn how to breathe, right? That's the first thing. And slow diaphragmatic breathing for men is really important because it helps calm the nervous system. It helps them ground more into their body, and it helps actually create a more, I would say, like harmonious atmosphere for the female partner to actually drop into that space with him. Because if if you think about the experience, if men are coming in very hot and very fast, and that's not how women are generally experiencing sexual activity for the most part, I'll speak in generalities, right? Then there's going to be a disconnect, right? It's a different energetic frequency. It's a different speed. And so if you learn to breathe, you can basically harness that energy and then bring that into the foreplay experience, right? So you basically cultivate that energy, bringing it up and out. And then how can I connect with my partner's other parts of my partner's body through kissing, through breast play, through all these other different facets, right? Connecting energetically with eye gazing and presence. That is going to bring her to the place where that speed may be the same, like same level, right? But it just takes time. But it's a very difficult thing for a guy to do. I mean, there's no question about it, right? To be able to have that energy and harness it and not be like, oh, I just want to release.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very difficult position to be in. It's a very difficult practice, but it's really rewarding if you understand that the result of doing so is going to create a much more harmonious experience, more orgasmic potential, more pleasure potential for both partners. But you have to think long-term or medium-term, right? Instead of just like, oh, I'm ready, I want this now.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a mind shift for guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if, like we're talking about, if porn is what you're learning, like they're not, I haven't seen that in porn.
Nobody does that in porn. It's the opposite. They want that shot. It's like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is to release. And so it's unlearning all of this stuff and creating it takes discipline. Just like waking up at 4:30 in the morning and working out takes discipline. Just like doing XYZ takes discipline. It takes discipline. And I think that for men, I would say like the hardest thing for a man to do is to be on the brink of ejaculation with a partner and then actively not pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a fucking powerful practice for a man. Because if you can do that, you can pretty much do anything. I mean, that's kind of like, that's what I tell guys. I'm like, if you learn how to do that, you can do anything, dude.
Yeah.
Because it is, you want it so bad. Especially when you get up to those levels of arousal, like the 7s, the 7.5s, the 8s. So you're like, yeah. And that's where I think like men can become masters of this, is when they're like, wow, if I just change my perspective on this experience that I'm having with this partner, and it doesn't just become about me blowing my load really quickly and like getting what I need, then I can actually create far more powerful experiences for myself and for my partner than I ever would have had before. So it's like seeing the forest for the trees. It's just like going and like grabbing that first thing that you see. You actually understand that there's a bigger play. And the play is disallowing your own pleasure in the immediate instance to then experience much greater pleasure afterwards. And it's a lot of the stuff you learn from Tantra. It's like you build. The energy needs to build, and it goes into a crescendo. But you're building it with your partner. It's not just this one side, like lopsided experience where it's like, I'm going to get mine. No, by the way, there are certainly times when that's totally fine too, right? So this isn't an all the time thing. It's just a some of the time thing. And I encourage guys, try it 1 in every 10 times. Mm-hmm. Try it 20% of the time the next month. Try it 30% of the time the next month. Just build onto that. I'm not telling guys to do it all the time. It's not a dogmatic practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, I mean, you mentioned this part of like, if you can do that, you can do anything. And I always find like really interesting connections between our sex life and the rest of our life. And so I'm wondering, for a man that has built the capacity to do that, how does that show up in the rest of his life?
He becomes incredibly powerful, incredibly magnetic, building businesses, building empires with his family, incredible amounts of patience. Like, you can apply that sexual energy that you cultivate and you can direct it. Right? That's really what it's about, because sexual energy is the most potent form of energy that we have as humans, I believe, at least my perspective. And when you apply that energy that you've cultivated into another aspect of your life, or you take that momentary I'm not going to do this. That skill that you develop in that moment, and then you can apply that to a really challenging conversation or a big endeavor that you want to take or whatever it may be. It's about taking it and then transposing that energy in that situation. And that's what I think is really powerful. And then then the world starts to sort of shift around you because you are the master of the energy that is the most potent energy that we have.
Yeah.
And then you start controlling it as opposed to controlling you, which is 95% of guys, it controls them.
Yeah.
You know?
Woo, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the difference between that and the difference between someone that might have been in what we started talking about of like being reliant on pornography or OnlyFans or whatever have you. It just seems like there's a clear difference in like how you get to live your life if you choose one route or the other. And I know that there's a lot more that you have to offer in terms of like how to help someone get there. But I'm wondering in closing, obviously you've studied this a lot and it's your work and your mission and you've helped so many people. I'm wondering now that you have all of this knowledge and expertise, like is there anything that you wish the younger version of you knew that might be helpful for someone that's listening today?
So the younger version of me, let's say, I think he would have wanted to. I think he would have wanted to hear that he was enough.
Mm.
You know, He was enough with every part of it. Whether it's the anxiety around how to be good, it's like you're learning, you're figuring it out. You don't have to be at the top or your size. You're at the gym, etc. Like all this sort of stuff. Like when you locker rooms with sports and athletes, like you are enough, and like it's okay. Now, if I had heard that, would I be where I'm doing today? Probably not. But like, and like, there is another path. Like, there's another way. Mm-hmm. There are other things that you can learn, and the way that you look at sexuality it can be very different from what we're bombarded with the norms of what society is.
Yeah.
So that's what those are the two things I would say.
Cool. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. And the harsh reality is that there is all of this sexual stimulation that can be hard to look past. So feeding the mind and the body with the type of things that might be more supportive. So I'm wondering if you could share with everyone, if they want to connect with you more, where can they find you?
Yes. So my social media is Get Natural Jackson across all channels. And I'm launching the Bedroom Mastery app, which will be available in the App Store, and it's called Bedroom Mastery. So you can find me there.
Cool. Amazing. Jackson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Naked Connection. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Trust me on this, your sex life and that special someone in your life will thank you for it. And if you really love the show, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review or a written review and let me know what you think. It would mean so much to me and this show. Until next time, happy connecting.